Chapter 1. Survival was never victory. It was erosion, a slow surrender of pride, piece by piece, until only flesh remained. Odelia had learned that truth long ago. The whip cracked, not against her, but close enough. The sound tore through the underground auction hall, sharp and deliberate, meant to remind her exactly where she stood. Property. She did not flinch. Her gaze remained lowered, fixed on the splintered wood beneath her bare feet. Iron cuffs bit into her wrists, cold and merciless against skin already rubbed raw. Sweat gathered at the base of her spine, trapped beneath the suffocating heat of the cavern. Next, the auctioneer's voice slurred through the thick air. A defect. No wolf, no scent. He chuckled. Barely worth the trouble, but she'll scrub floors. Maybe last a few nights if you're bored. Laughter followed. Low, cruel, expectant. Odelia swallowed against the metallic rise in her throat. The ash coating her skin itched. To them it was filth. To her, it was a prison, a seal. Beneath it, something ancient pressed outward. Patient, watching, waiting. If they knew what lived under her skin, they wouldn't be bidding. They would be running. I bid 10 silvers. The voice cut through the noise like a blade. Odelia lifted her head just enough to see him. Alpha Gareth. Broad, brutal, smiling like a man already imagining blood. She'll make fine bait, he said lazily, glancing at the others. Let's see how fast a scentless thing runs when something's hunting it. A ripple of approval moved through the crowd. No one challenged Gareth. No one ever did. Odelia's pulse stuttered. The pits. If they threw her in, she wouldn't survive without shifting. And if she shifted, everyone would. No. 1 copper. Silence. Absolute, immediate, suffocating. The voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The crowd parted before he even stepped forward. King Vane, the alpha of alphas. Power didn't announce him. It bent around him. The air shifted. Pressure dropped. Every wolf in the cavern lowered their gaze instinctively. Even Gareth went still. Vane stepped into the torchlight, draped in shadow and indifference. His expression held no interest, no curiosity, only boredom. A single copper coin flicked from his fingers. It struck the wooden platform with a sharp, echoing clang. 10 silvers, my son, he said mildly, is excessive for something broken. His eyes passed over Odelia like she was already beneath notice. 1 copper is generous. Gareth's jaw tightened. Rage flickered, but died just as quickly. No one challenged the king. Not and lived. Sold. The word came out too fast, too eager. Hands grabbed her, shoved her forward. Odelia stumbled, then dropped to her knees at Vane's boots. Stone bit into her skin. She kept her head down, kept still, kept small. Up. The command was quiet, cold, final. She didn't move fast enough, so he did. Vane's hand closed around the chain at her wrists. The moment his skin touched metal, something snapped. A violent surge shot through her body. Odelia gasped, not in pain, in recognition. Above her, Vane went rigid. For a fraction of a second, his control cracked. His pupils dilated. His wolf stirred. There was no scent, nothing to claim, nothing to recognize. And yet, something inside him lunged. Mine. The word didn't reach his lips, but it echoed in his bones. He released the chain like it had burned him. His expression reset instantly. Cold, controlled, untouchable. Walk. Odelia obeyed. Because she had to. Because she couldn't afford not to. But inside, something had already begun to unravel. The night air cut through the heat of the cavern like a blade. The royal carriage waited ahead. Guards lined the perimeter. Silent, lethal. Vane didn't look back, didn't acknowledge her, didn't even slow. but Odelia heard it. That sound, soft, deadly, unmistakable. Steel leaving its sheath. "You arrogant bastard!" Gareth lunged from the shadows. Too fast, too close. The silver blade arced toward the king's spine. Time fractured. Vane turned, but not fast enough. Odelia moved, not thinking, not choosing. Instinct took over. She stepped between them, raised her chained hands, and caught the blade. Steel met flesh. The cut was deep, too deep, but she didn't scream. Black blood spilled, thick, wrong, alive. Where it touched the silver, it hissed. Where it hit the stone, it burned. The ground beneath her feet melted. Gareth froze. His expression collapsed. Not anger, not triumph. Fear, pure, primal. Odelia slowly lifted her head. Her eyes found the king, and for the first time, she didn't look small. He looked at her like she was worthless. Now, he's the one losing control. Chapter 2. The hiss of dissolving silver cut through the cavern. Gareth dropped. One moment, he was a towering alpha. The next, he was nothing but a shaking ruin on wet stone. His broadsword smoked where Odelia's palms held it in place. The metal warped beneath her grip, surrendering with a low, tortured whine. The scent hit her a heartbeat later. Burnt iron, corrupted magic. Something foul and ancient unraveling in the air. Vane moved. No hesitation. No warning. His boot came down hard. Bone cracked. Gareth's howl ripped through the cavern. High, broken, humiliating. Not the voice of a predator anymore. Just pain. Vane didn't spare him another glance. His hand closed around Odelia's chain. Cold. Absolute. Up. She barely had time to react before he yanked her forward. The force dragged her off balance, hauling her straight into the night air. Guards parted instantly. The carriage door stood open. He shoved her inside. The door slammed. Darkness swallowed them. Then motion. The carriage surged forward. Inside, the space shrank. The air thickened. Vane sat across from her, still, watching. A storm contained in human form. Beside him, Bram lounged with careless ease, one arm draped lazily across the seat, eyes gleaming with quiet amusement. Odelia kept her head lowered. Not submission. Control. Her hands pulsed faintly. The wounds were already closing beneath the ash, flesh knitting, sealing, erasing the evidence of what should have been impossible. She pressed them against her chest, hiding the last trace of black blood. Explain. The word didn't rise. It fell, heavy, unavoidable, an alpha command. It filled the carriage, pressing against her ribs, her throat, her spine. It demanded, forced, ordered. A lesser wolf would have dropped instantly, would have choked on obedience. Odelia blinked. That was all. The pressure slid off her, like water, like it had never been there. Vane felt it, the absence, the refusal. Slowly, deliberately, she lifted her head. Their eyes met. No fear, no submission, no instinct to bow. Something inside Vane snapped tight. Not anger. Something worse. Interest. His wolf stirred, restless, agitated, pushing hard against the edges of control. It didn't understand her. It didn't recognize her. And yet, it wanted. Badly. Bram let out a low chuckle. "Well," he drawled, eyes flicking between them. "Seems you've purchased something defective, my king." His smile sharpened. Doesn't obey, doesn't respond, doesn't even smell right. Vane didn't look away from Odelia. She hears. Odelia held his gaze, steady, unmoving. She felt his aura then, fully. It should have crushed her. It should have driven her to her knees. Instead, it wrapped around her, solid, unbreakable, safe. The realization hit harder than Gareth's blade ever could. Her breathing slowed, her pulse steadied. For the first time in years, she wasn't bracing for impact. Vane saw the shift, small, subtle, but real, and something inside him tightened. Possessive, instinctive, dangerous. The carriage jolted to a stop. The doors opened. Light flooded in. Guards dragged her out, up the marble steps, through towering doors, into the court. Gold, white, power, and then her. Bare feet touched the pristine fur. Each step left behind a dark mark. Not just blood. Something deeper. Something that hissed softly against the immaculate surface. Whispers spread, then stopped. A gasp cut through the hall. Sharp, offended. A noble woman stepped forward, emerald silk, perfect posture, rotting arrogance beneath it all. What is this filth doing here? Her voice rang across the chamber. Her eyes snapped to the ruined rug, then to Odelia. You disgusting rat. She moved, fast, hand raised, intent clear. Odelia didn't move, didn't brace, didn't even blink. She didn't need to. The ash shifted, not falling, not breaking, waking. It rippled across her skin like living shadow. Cold, aware, hungry. The moment the noblewoman's hand crossed the space, it struck. Not her. Everything. A pulse exploded outward, dark, violent, unforgiving. The noblewoman flew backward. Her body slammed into stone with a crack that echoed through the entire hall. She crumpled to the floor, silk pooling around her like something broken. Silence fell, heavy, absolute. No one moved. No one spoke, because now everyone understood. There wasn't an Omega, and whatever the Alpha King had dragged into his court wasn't something that could be owned. He brought her into his court like she was nothing. Now, he's the only one who can stop them from tearing her apart. Chapter 3. The court did not move. It couldn't. The echo of impact still clung to the air, sharp, final, undeniable. Vane didn't look at the fallen noblewoman. He didn't need to. She no longer mattered. His attention settled, completely, on Odelia. The ash on her skin still smoldered faintly. Alive, wrong, intriguing, not a threat, not yet, a question. Tilly. His voice cut clean through the silence. A small servant girl rushed forward, head bowed so low her chin nearly touched her chest. Yes, my king. Take her to the springs. Vane stepped closer, close enough for his shadow to swallow her whole. Scrub her clean, he said quietly. I want to see what's hiding beneath it. Not a command, a demand. Tilly nodded, almost tripping over herself as she led Odelia away. The court parted. No one spoke. No one dared, because something had changed. They all felt it, and none of them understood it. The corridors twisted downward. Stone, damp, heat. The air thickened with minerals and rising steam. The bathhouse opened before them, vast, echoing, alive with heat. White marble pillars disappeared into curling mist. The pool stretched wide, its surface shimmering under torchlight. Tilly approached carefully, too carefully. Her hands shook as she dipped a coarse sponge into scented water. She reached for Odelia's arm. The ash hissed. The sound was soft, but wrong. Tilly recoiled instantly, dropping the sponge with a startled gasp. Fear filled her eyes. Real fear. Odelia exhaled slowly, not annoyed, not angry, just tired. She reached for the torn edge of her clothes. Let them fall. Silence followed. Then she stepped into the water. Heat swallowed her, immediate, intense. It forced the tension from her lungs in a slow, controlled breath. The seal weakened. The ash began to dissolve, not wash away, unravel, like ink bleeding into water. Dark tendrils slipped from her skin, dissolving into nothing. And beneath it, truth. Her skin emerged first, smooth, unmarked, pale as untouched snow. Then her hair, silver, not dull, not faded, luminous. It caught the firelight and held it, reflecting it back in soft liquid strands that cascaded down her bare back. And then, her scent. It bloomed, slow, unavoidable. Midnight, void. Something deep and endless, laced with the soft sweetness of night-blooming jasmine. The air changed. The doors slammed open. Vane entered. "What is taking so—" He stopped. Completely. The world narrowed. To her. The bond hit him, not gently, not gradually, violently. It slammed into his chest, stealing the air from his lungs. His heart stuttered, then roared back to life, pounding hard enough to hurt. His wolf surged. "Mate!" The word tore through him like a command he could not refuse. His body reacted instantly. Heat spiked, breath shortened. Instinct demanded proximity, possession, claim, mine. His pride recoiled. Hard. No, not her. Not like this. Not something dragged from an auction floor. But his body, his wolf, didn't care. Odelia felt him before she turned, felt the weight of his stare. Hot, heavy, unrelenting. It traced over her skin like something tangible. She didn't cover herself, didn't flinch. Instead, she turned away, lifted water in her hands, let it fall slowly through her silver hair, as if he didn't exist, as if he didn't matter. Something inside Vane snapped. That indifference was worse than defiance. He stepped forward, pulled his cloak free, let it fall. Then he entered the water, fully clothed. The surface hissed faintly around him as he closed the distance. 2 steps. 1. His hand closed around her shoulders. He turned her, hard, pinned her against the slick cavern wall. Her back met stone, his body pressed against hers, heat against heat, tension coiled tight between them. "What are you?" he growled. His voice dropped low, rough, dangerously close. It vibrated against her collarbone, their faces inches apart, breath shared, control, thin. Odelia met his gaze, steady, unshaken. And for the first time, he wasn't sure who held the power between them. She parted her lips, and the world shattered. A scream tore through the castle. The warding bells erupted. High above, glass exploded inward. Shards rained down like falling stars, slicing through steam and torchlight. Figures dropped from the ceiling. 1, 5, 10, dozens, cloaked, silent, deadly. Silver blades flashed, and suddenly the king's court was no longer the most dangerous place in the room. Chapter 4, glass shattered. It didn't fall. It attacked. Shards rained down in a glittering storm, slicing through steam and torchlight. Cloaked figures followed, dropping hard into the pool, their impact sending waves crashing against marble. Silver flashed, every blade angled toward one target, the king. Vane moved first, always. He shoved Odelia behind him, not gently, not carefully, instinctively. His body became a wall, broad, solid, unbreakable. The first assassin barely touched the water before Vane reached him. A snap. Bone gave way. The man's wrist folded unnaturally, his weapon slipping free. Vane caught it mid-fall, turned, blocked. Steel rang against steel. Another strike. Another. Faster now. Closer. The pool erupted into chaos. Water churned. Steam split. Blood spread in dark ribbons beneath the surface. Vane didn't fight like a king. He fought like something cornered, something that had decided nothing would get past him, not to her. Every movement cut, every strike ended. Every inch he gave he took back in blood. Odelia pressed against the marble wall, watching. Her breath hitched, not from fear, from something else, his heartbeat. She could feel it, through the chaos, through the water, through the space between them, steady, furious, alive. He was protecting her. The realization landed hard, too hard. Then, a sound, soft, sharp, wrong. A dart pierced the air. It struck. Vane's body jerked, The impact buried deep in his neck. Wolfsbane. It spread instantly, fast, efficient, deadly. His breath caught, then broke. The sword slipped from his grip. Metal hit stone with a hollow echo beneath the water. He dropped. Not fully. Not yet, but enough. Enough for the enemy to see. A massive figure stepped forward from the mist, towering, silent, certain. The executioner raised his axe, high, final. Time slowed. Odelia's world narrowed. To him. To the way his body strained against the poison. To the way he still tried to rise. Still fought. Still refused. And something inside her broke. Not fear. Not control. Something deeper. No, he would not die like this. Not here. Not because of her. The last of her restraint shattered. Her eyes opened. Black. Endless. The air dropped. Instantly. Violently. Steam froze mid-air. Water stilled, then crystallized. Ice spread across the pool in jagged, lethal fractures. Darkness moved. Not shadow. Not absence. Something alive. It peeled itself from the walls, from the floor, from the air itself. It gathered, formed, claws, massive, razor-edged, unnatural. They struck. The executioner didn't scream long. Armor tore, flesh followed, the sound wet, final. The remaining assassins froze. Too late. Odelia lifted her hands, slowly, deliberately. The shadows obeyed. They surged. A storm without wind, blades without steel, death without mercy. It ended in seconds. Silence returned, not peaceful, heavy, absolute. The doors burst open. Bram entered first, guards behind him, weapons raised, then stilled. They saw the bodies, the ice, the darkness still clinging to the air, and her, standing at the center of it all, no longer small, no longer weak. Something else, something wrong, something ancient, a legend, alive. Odelia swayed. The power receded. Fast, too fast. Her breath came sharp, unsteady. She looked down. At him. Vane knelt in the frozen water, barely conscious, poison burning through his veins. But his eyes, they were clear, locked on her. No disgust, no rejection, only awe. Something deeper, something dangerous, something absolute. He looked at her like she was everything. Her knees gave out. She fell. The last of the ash vanished. Completely. And her scent exploded. Dark honey. Midnight bloom. Power. It filled the room, crushed the air, demanded attention. It reached him. Even through the poison, even through the fading light. It found him. And something inside him answered. His lips parted. Mate. Barely a whisper. Then darkness turned to 5. Vane woke like a man dragged back from death. Air tore into his lungs. Sharp, violent, real. The paralysis was gone. Completely. Only a faint, unnatural cold lingered in his veins, like the echo of something darker than poison. She had saved him. Not healed, not treated. Taken it from him. His body reacted before his mind caught up. He inhaled again. Deep. Searching. Nothing. No honey. No midnight bloom. No her. Where is she? The words came out low, controlled, but the room felt it. Bram stepped forward from the shadows. For once, he didn't look amused. In the lower hold, he said carefully. I secured her. She used dark magic. She's unstable. A threat. Silence. Then it broke. A sound tore from Vane's chest. Not a growl, not anger. Something feral. You caged her? His eyes burned gold. Pure. Uncontrolled. You put my maid in chains? Bram staggered back. Too late. Vane was already moving. The world blurred. Corridors vanished beneath his stride. Stone. Torches. Guards. All of it. Irrelevant. His pulse roared in his ears. Too fast. Too hard. She had bled for him. She had saved him. And they chained her. Again. His wolf howled. Not rage. Not dominance. Pain. The dungeon doors came into view. 2 guards stepped forward. Weapons raised. Too slow. Leave. They didn't question it, didn't dare. They fled. Vane didn't reach for the key. He kicked the door. The impact shattered the hinges. Iron screamed, then collapsed inward with a deafening crash. The cell was cold, wet, rotting, and filled with her. Her scent wrapped around him instantly. Heavy, undeniable, alive. It hit harder than the poison ever had. She sat on the ground, still, silent. Silver hair spilling over her shoulders, wrists bound. That was enough. Something inside him broke. Vane dropped to his knees, hard. Mud soaked into his clothes. He didn't care. He moved closer, slow now, careful, as if she might disappear. His hand shook as they reached the chains. He didn't unlock them. He tore them apart. Iron snapped under his grip, like it was nothing. Forgive me. His voice. It wasn't a king's voice anymore. It was raw, worn down, unprotected. Please. He took her hands, gently. Too gently for a man who crushed bone without effort. He pressed them to his lips, closed his eyes. I called you nothing. His breath hitched. I treated what is mine like it was beneath me. A pause, heavy. I was wrong, not loud, not dramatic, just true. I was blind. Odelia didn't move. She looked down at him, the most powerful alpha in the realm, kneeling in dirt, at her feet. Something in her chest shifted, not fully, not safely, but enough to hurt. The bond pulled, hard, relentless. It wanted her to reach for him, to forgive, to fall. But memory answered first. The whip, the cage, the auction. Her fingers slipped from his grasp. The air changed instantly, cold, sharp, final. She lifted her hand, not to strike, to control, one finger beneath his chin. She tilted his head up, forced him to look at her. No softness, no surrender, only truth. You bought a thing. Her voice was quiet, too quiet. You paid a copper for something you thought was worthless. His breath stopped. You don't get to stand here now and ask for a queen. The words landed, clean, precise. They cut deeper than any blade. Vane didn't move, didn't argue, didn't defend, because she was right, and he knew it. The silence stretched, tight, unforgiving. Then the ground moved, not subtly, not gently. It shuddered. Dust fell from the ceiling. Stone groaned, and then a roar. Deep, ancient, not wolf, not anything that belonged to this world. It tore through the castle walls, shook the air, cracked the night open. Both of them felt it. Something was coming, and for the first time, Vane didn't look at the threat. He looked at her. Chapter 6. The castle shook, not trembled, shook. Stone groaned. Dust cascaded from the ceiling in choking waves. Another roar tore through the night, louder this time, deeper, wrong in a way that made the air itself recoil. Bram burst into the dungeon. Gone was the smirk, gone was the control. He looked like a man who had just seen the end of everything. My king. He didn't finish the sentence cleanly. His breath fractured under urgency. It's Gareth, Bram forced out. He lived. He brought rogues, dozens, no, hundreds, and a witch. The word landed heavier than the roar. Vane rose, slowly. The air around him changed. Cold, still, deadly. A witch? His voice dropped low. Controlled, too controlled. Why would she lower herself to follow a coward? Bram's eyes flicked, briefly, toward Odelia. They're not following him. A pause. They're hunting her. Silence. The witch wants the wraith wolf. Bram continued quieter now. She means to drain her. Take the void magic for herself. That was enough. Something inside Vane settled. Not rage, not chaos. Decision. He turned to Odelia. No demand, no command. His hand lifted. and for the first time he touched her without taking. His fingers brushed a single silver strand from her cheek, gentle, careful, like she was something that could break. "Go with Bram," he said, no hesitation. "Take the tunnels. Seal the gates behind me." Odelia's breath caught. "What are you doing?" Vane's mouth curved, not a smirk, not arrogance, something softer, something that hurt to look at. "I'm earning the right to stand in front of you." His voice dropped. "You owe me nothing. A beat. Live." Then he turned and walked away. The door slammed shut behind him. The locking mechanism ground into place like a final verdict. He didn't look back. He didn't need to. Because this was a choice, not a mistake. Tilly rushed in moments later, clutching a lantern that shook violently in her hands. "We have to move," she whispered, voice breaking. "If the witch strikes the foundations, these tunnels will bury us alive." Bram unlocked Odelia's chains. The iron fell away. Useless. Freedom. But it didn't feel like it. They moved quickly, through narrow tunnels carved deep beneath the castle. The air grew thick with dirt and fear. Above them, war erupted. Steel, roars, screams. Odelia heard it all. But she was listening for one thing, him. And then it came. A roar. Veins. It tore through everything. Dominance, fury, refusal. For a moment, it felt unstoppable. Then it broke, cut off, replaced by something else, something twisted, something wrong, magic, dark, crushing. Odelia stopped, completely. The bond snapped tight inside her chest. Pain flooded through it, sharp, immediate, unforgiving. He was losing. "Keep moving," Bram snapped, grabbing her arm. She didn't move. Ahead, there was safety, silence, survival. Behind, there was him. Her chest tightened. Not fear, something deeper. The cold wall she had built around herself finally cracked. He had chosen her, not for power, not for gain, for her. And now, he was dying for it. No. The word came out quiet, but it didn't break. It hardened. She pulled free from Bram's grip. "What are you doing?" Tilly cried. Odelia didn't answer. She turned and ran, not away, toward him. The shadows reacted instantly. They surged, twisted, awakened. Cold energy poured from her veins like a flood, breaking through stone. Her bones shifted, cracking, reforming, expanding into something larger, something older. She didn't fight it. Not this time. She let it take her. The gates stood ahead, reinforced, sealed, unbreakable. To anyone else. Odelia didn't slow. She hit them, and the world split open. Wood shattered outward in a violent explosion. The battlefield froze. Every movement, every sound, stopped, because standing in the ruined archway was not a girl, not a slave, not an omega. It was something vast, something ancient, something that did not belong to this world, a creature shaped from void and starlight, liquid darkness woven into form, eyes like endless night, the wraith wolf, awake, fully. She stepped forward, and the ground itself seemed to recoil. Then she roared. The sound swallowed the sky. It crushed the battlefield. Torches died instantly. Flames vanished. Light disappeared. And in the absolute darkness, something far worse had just arrived. Chapter 7. The darkness took everything. Not just light, sound, movement, breath. It swallowed the battlefield whole. Odelia moved within it, unseen, unstoppable. Where she passed, things ended. The rogues didn't fight. They couldn't. Their instincts failed them. Collapsed under something older, something that did not belong to their world. They dropped. Some tried to run. None made it far. Across the courtyard, the witch screamed. Her voice cracked with fury, with fear. She raised her hands and hurled power. A spear of emerald magic tore through the darkness, slicing toward Vane's exposed side. Odelia was faster. She appeared in its path, not stepping, not running, arriving. Her jaws opened, vast, impossible, woven from void and starlight. The spell vanished inside her, consumed, silenced. The witch froze. For the first time she understood. This wasn't power she could steal. It was something that would erase her. The shadows answered. They wrapped around her, tight, hungry, unforgiving. Her scream didn't last long, then nothing. Silence returned, but not empty, heavy, watching. Vane felt it all, through the bond, through the blood, through something deeper than either. She was fighting for him, not surviving, not escaping, choosing. Something inside him ignited. The poison still burned, still weakened him, but it didn't matter anymore. He moved. Gareth barely had time to react. Steel flashed, once, clean, final. The Alpha fell, and with him, everything he built, gone. The battlefield stilled, completely. The surviving rogues dropped instantly, flat to the ground. Throats exposed, lives surrendered, no command needed. Odelia stood at the center, a creature of shadow and stars, terrifying, breathtaking, untouchable. Her gaze found him. Vane didn't look away, didn't hesitate. He shifted back, human. Blood streaked across his skin. His chest rose and fell with the aftermath of war. But his eyes, they were clear. He walked toward her, slow, deliberate, every step a choice, every step a surrender. He stopped before her, close enough to feel the cold of her power, close enough to die. And then the king knelt, not forced, not broken, chosen. He tilted his head back, exposed his throat. The ultimate truth, no crown, no power, just him, offered. Odelia watched him. Something inside her softened, not weakened, opened. The distance between them, gone. She let the shadows fall away. Darkness unraveled. The cold lifted, and she returned, human, bare feet on frozen ground, silver hair falling around her like light reborn. She stepped closer, reached for him. Her fingers slid into his hair, firm, possessive. She leaned down. Her lips brushed his pulse, warm, alive, mine. The word wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. She bit, sharp, precise. Vane's breath broke. A low sound tore from his chest. Not pain, not quite. Something deeper. His arms wrapped around her instantly, pulling her close, holding, claiming in return. The bond snapped into place. Not softly like lightning. A surge of power exploded between them, gold and void entwining, locking, sealing, binding, not ownership, balance, equals. Vane rose. He didn't let her go. He carried her, not as something fragile, but as something chosen. They walked through the broken gates, through the stunned silence, back into the court. The nobles saw them and fell, not out of duty, not out of law, out of fear and understanding. The girl in chains was gone. Something else stood in her place, something they could never control. Vane stepped onto the dais, but he didn't take the throne. He placed her there, then stood beside her, not above, beside. Odelia looked down at them, at the same faces that once watched her be sold. She smiled, slow, sharp, beautiful, dangerous. I was nothing to you. Her voice carried easily through the silent hall. You watched me break. A pause. And now, her gaze hardened. You kneel. She turned her head, looked at Vane. Their eyes met. Fire, storm, void. You chose me when I was nothing. Soft, deadly. Now, my king, a faint tilt of her lips. Learn how to deserve your nightmare. She was nothing until she became everything they feared. And he, the Alpha King who once looked down at her, now stands beside her as hers. So tell me, if you were her, would you forgive him or make him earn you forever? I read every comment, and if this story stayed with you, you already know what to do. There are more stories waiting, and some of them are even darker.